Welcome to Boston IVF podcast. My name is Denny Sakkas and I'm Chief Scientific Officer of Boston IVF here in Waltham, Massachusetts. And today we're going to talk about the difficult topic of discarding embryos and how we choose to discard them and how we store them and what the possibilities are if you actually choose to provide your embryos for research. Today we have two of my colleagues with me, Catharina Brandsten and Kristin Rooney, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Catharina Brandsten. I am Director of Service Operations and Head of Tissue Establishment at Takara Bio Europe in Göteborg, Sweden.
My name is Kristin Rooney, and I'm the Senior Clinical Trial and Research Program Manager at Boston IVF in Waltham, Massachusetts.
So the topic that we wanted to discuss with you today was actually what to do with your discarded embryos, or what choices you have when you actually generate your embryos, and hopefully you've had a successful IVF cycle, or sometimes when it's not successful, what happens. So how do we choose which embryos to keep and which embryos not to keep? So after many years of knowledge, we've gained quite a lot of information of which embryos we should store, which embryos we should freeze. And the way we do that is actually by looking at their shape, the types of cells that are in them, and how quickly they get to that stage. So what we freeze here at Boston IVF and many clinics in the US and around the world are blastocysts. This is when an embryo is around day 5, day 6, or even day 7 of development, and it has a particular shape and it contains specific cells that we look for. I won't go into the details of this, but we have many years of knowledge, as I said, of what type of embryos actually survive freezing or survive actually and have the best chance of giving you a pregnancy. And interestingly, even in nature, a lot of embryos don't keep growing. They fail to grow. That's why women don't get pregnant on every cycle. So we have a very good idea of what type of embryos to freeze and which embryos to actually keep in storage. The other obvious thing we actually look for if people are actually doing genetic testing of their embryos. So when we've actually frozen what we think are good looking embryos and we've tested them for genetic abnormalities, we sometimes see that they come back and they're abnormal in terms of chromosome number and the testing that we perform. So these also are discarded. So what we have is embryos that are actually abnormal in terms of chromosome, abnormal in terms of that they didn't develop properly, so we actually don't freeze them at all. And of course, sometimes patients happily complete their family by doing IVF and actually will have other embryos that they possibly, they're not sure about what to do, and they might choose to discard them, to actually perform research on them, or to have other options. One of the things we're lucky that we have a number of collaborations. One of the projects we've worked on in terms of research is we've been able to, through our patients' consent, donate embryos to what's called stem cell research. And this is a type of research that we've been involved with many years, where some embryos are actually donated for research and given over to develop stem cells. And Catharina, who's from Takara, one of our colleagues, is able to explain briefly what stem cells are. So Catharina?
Yes, thanks, Denny. So it's 1998 one was able to derive and describe the first human embryonic stem cells derived from fertilized eggs. These human embryonic stem cells have the fantastic capacity so they can be differentiated, matured into any cell type of our body, and that's more than 200 different cell types. The stem cell community have spent these last 20 years learning how to control and culture these human stem cells in the best manner, and then how to control the differentiation when we want these stem cells to start to mature to specific cell types. We have come far. Nowadays, we can also derive human ES cells under very clean and controlled conditions, and that's very important that these cells later on shall be used in clinical trials or in cell therapies. Right now, around the world, there are several groups that are either directly involved or preparing for clinical trials where they use human pluripotent stem cells. And they take these stem cells and they push them and differentiate them into different cell types, such as neural cells, as retinal cells of the eye, as insulin-producing cells of the pancreas. And they intend to use them in clinical trials and see if these cells can help to improve, decrease illness, or even cure illness. We are truly proud to be part of this work and contribute a little way to hopefully make life better for other people. Over to you, Denny.
Thanks, Catharina. So obviously there are projects that we're doing in terms of research, but more interestingly, able to help probably patients who have certain diseases in the future. But the decision to actually donate your embryos or discard them is really difficult. And Kristin will just give you some of the other options that are available to patients and about this difficult decision.
Great. Yeah, as Dr. Sakkas said, we have some really neat options for patients who have frozen embryos or embryos that during their routine IVF treatment are going to otherwise be discarded. So you can donate to scientific research, such as stem cell research. We also have the option of discarding your embryos if you're done with treatment, or donating your embryo to another patient or another couple to adopt to start their family building. We recognize this is a really hard decision to make, so we actually have a social worker on staff that is able to counsel you through your options, tell you all the options available to you, walk you through it, help a patient and a partner if they're come up with the decision of what they're comfortable with and what they want to do. You can also reach out to your Boston IVF physician. You can contact the research team for more information. We recognize there are a lot of choices and really great opportunities to donate your embryos or use them in a different way. So please feel free to ask us if you have any questions about it, and we're happy to explain everything to you.
Thanks, Kristin, and thanks, Catharina. If you just take one message out of today, we know that it's a really difficult decision what to do with your embryos, especially when you've got them in storage and several years have passed and you're not sure what to do with them. But we just want to tell you that Boston IVF is here to be contacted, to talk with you, to counsel you about that really difficult decision, and hopefully we can work with you to make sure that the decision you make is the correct one for you and your partner. So thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you'll tune into other podcasts as we progress. Thank you.